where we come from as students, whether it's in primary school, high school, through school, there's almost like a black and white in terms of you failed, you've passed. But life is not like that. Every challenge that we go through, we decide whether it's a failure or success. It's only a failure if we don't learn from it. But if we learn from it and use it as a stepping stone for the next, phase or on our way to success, it's not a failure, it's success, and I think that's kind of a mind shift that we all need to have. It was like an aha moment. And if I look at my Everest expeditions, I didn't summit on the first attempt. I summited on the fourth attempt. But I'm very much aware and appreciative of the fact that 2019 was not a success in isolation of the learnings from 2014, 2017, as well as 2015. And that is just something to celebrate, and acknowledge that it was failing forward, which is success in itself.
In 2015, I mean, you mentioned that briefly. You experienced an earthquake on top of Mount Everest. That's quite an incredibly fear-evoking experience. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how you actually overcame that to go back again?
Okay. So 2015 was my second attempt on Everest. The previous one was 2014 when there was an avalanche and 16 Sherpas died. I think if there was ever a time when I needed to give up was that time, because it was like shocking. Not because I didn't know people died on Everest. I had read books, watched documentaries, but to actually see dead bodies and you there, romanticizing Everest and summiting just goes out of the window. It just becomes real. And the next year, which is the one that you alluded to, 2015, when I went back, I was in the middle of Camp 1 and 2, which is the Western Kum. And suddenly, the glacier, so we like climbing on a glacier and walking up to Camp 2, and the glacier starts shaking beneath us. So we both like going, and my Sherpa, Nawang, turns around, hooks his carabiner into mine, and he says, Sarah, we are jumping. So the idea, as crazy as it sounds when I talk about it now, was I needed to watch him. If he jumped to the left, we both jumped to the left. To the right, we both jumped to the right. Because if we jumped in opposite directions and the glacier opened between us, we were both going to fall in. And this happened. It felt like 5 minutes, but I believe the earthquake was like less than 2 minutes. And as soon as it stopped, Nawang looked at me and said, we are right. But we were both confused. I mean, who would have thought an earthquake, an avalanche? Yes, because we didn't see anything, but it was just, the ground shaking. So as we were trying to figure out what was going on, he's removing the carabiner, the mountains around us, because in the Western Kum, you're surrounded by Numtse, Lhotse, as well as Everest. So you are in between the mountains. The mountains around us all started avalanching because the earthquake shook them and all the loose ice started coming towards us. And this is the year after the avalanche, which killed 16 Sherpas. And he just started praying, Om Mani Padme Hum. This is like a Tibetan prayer that they had taught us at Everest Base Camp. And I remember just watching him and thinking, oh my word, that God of yours that I learned about 2 days ago, he ain't saving me. Like, this is not happening, So it's climbing has changed my life in more ways than one. It's allowed me to give back and make a difference. It's allowed me to do things that I would never have imagined. It's allowed me to meet people, to learn more about myself than I would have ever imagined, and to learn from people that are amazing people doing crazy stuff around the world and actually changing the world. It's allowed me to know and appreciate the fact that I am uniquely extraordinary and I choose not to be ordinary. Whereas when I started, I used to say, I'm just an ordinary African woman trying to reach extraordinary heights. And I say now, we are all uniquely extraordinary, and being ordinary is a choice. And I wake up every day and I choose wisely. I am extraordinary, and I'm going to stay in that truth.
I've heard a bit about what made you choose to embark on mountaineering, so maybe to start with that for those that haven't. Also about what is it about being on that mountain that drives you to go back?
Yeah. Well, so you know that I started climbing initially as a bucket list item. So sometimes they say I'm an accidental mountaineer, right? And as I did Kilimanjaro with 4 other people, we raised money for a home in Benoni called Kids Heaven. And one of the kids there at the home said to me, "Do you really come from the township?" Because we climbed the mountain and we raised enough money. We built them an outdoor gym worth about 200,000 rands. We converted the room into a library. And initially I thought it was a joke, do black people swim kind of joke. Then I just thought, yeah, of course. And why do you say that? And she's like, no, because people like us don't do things like this, you know. And it dawned on me that she was serious, and it just made me sad. But it also reminded me of me growing up as a kid, watching Superman and Wonder Woman and She-Ra and thinking, they're epic, but they don't look like me. So I can't be a hero because I don't fly. And realizing subsequently that, no, I can be a superhero. And I just made a conscious decision when I came home, especially because I'm a mother of two, that I wondered whether until then I was doing enough to show my kids that help comes from within before they looked elsewhere. Because this child was convinced that people that do things like this are Europeans that come to the home to visit them. And when they go back home, they do these amazing things. Where's the hope for Africa in that? So I made a conscious decision that I was going to climb the 7 highest peaks on 7 continents around the world, but not just climb, use it to raise money for education. And because it's the equalizer and it's the one way for not only that child, for my child, for the next generation of Africans to actually appreciate and be on par with everybody around the world, to look at the world as a sea of opportunities rather than obstacles that you and I still face today. And the reality is, climbing Everest or mountains is not for everybody, but we all in real life have mountains that we need to climb. And if we actually work at it with precision, knowing that we are extraordinary, we'll make it easy for the next generation. And that's really what my aim is now, is to just conscientize people to the fact that they are amazing, they were made for this time, let's do this.
Did you speak about having mountains to climb? And I imagine that growing up, you had many mountains to climb to get you to the big mountain. You're an accomplished career woman, another a philanthropist with all this incredible charity work that you're doing. What kind of mountains stand out for you that led you to where you are now, apart from the physical ones that we all know of?
Yeah. Wow. Life, I suppose. And I think one of the things that just got me going is losing my older sister when 2009. And I started questioning myself, to say, I think I'm successful because I've got a house, I've got a family, I've got a job. It's a very good job, I'm in the management, in a good salary, I've got a car. And it just wasn't enough because a voice came through, because I just started wondering whether Florence, my older sister, had lived her purpose. And I wondered the stories our grandfather always used to say, like, if you do not live a life of service, that's a life wasted. When I was doing that, who is going to remember my arguments in the boardroom? Is that it? There must be more to me than just that. And I left, lost shares. And I think it was a battle of figuring out, who am I? Why am I here? What am I meant to do? I think apart from that, it's the battle of motherhood. I'm very ambitious. I see potential in people even when they don't see it in themselves. But it becomes very difficult when they're very close to you. So I've got 2 sons. I see so much for them, and at times I battle when they don't see it. Then you have to come back to yourself and say, it's their journey. Maybe I need to let it go and let them be. And that is challenging as a mother. I just recently, my son was in his second year at Monash doing psychology, and he came home and he said, "Mom, this is not for me. I want to do music." Oh my God, that is more than Everest. So I struggle with daily things that people struggle with. And that's why it's important for me to be authentic and to say to people, there's nothing special about me in terms of climbing Everest. Anybody can, because I'm just like everybody else with daily struggles. And the only thing is I have a mindset to say, if it's coming at me, I definitely will be able to overcome it. And if I don't overcome it now, I'll overcome it tomorrow. What I need to do is, what tools am I meant to learn from this experience to be able to ensure that success that awaits for me? And if you look at COVID-19 and what's happening around the world to our families, our friends, people that we know, what are we meant to learn from it? And how do we make sure we don't only survive, but we thrive thereafter? It's really about falling forward and about visualizing the success, but also visualizing failures, because that allows you to have in your toolkit tools to allow you to move forward. Because if you just think, everything is going smooth sailing, when something hits at you exactly the same way that COVID has hit us, you get paralyzed. How do you make sure you don't get paralyzed and you keep going?
So COVID is a pandemic that obviously is so multifaceted in how it's affecting people. You've started on a digital outreach program. Is that right?
Yes.
During COVID. And can you tell me a little bit about what that program hopes to do?
Yes. So I started with raising money to build libraries, like physical libraries. So I built 5 libraries as a Mandela Libraries ambassador. But when COVID it happened, and I noticed that my kids are at home and they're studying, but there are other kids out there, that school literally stopped, right? So I partnered with iSchool Africa, who build digital libraries for schools, and they teach teachers. They've actually, in the past 10 years, taught up over 3,000 teachers digital literacy and to help the kids. And they put in digital libraries in different schools. And we also brought in Vumatel. So Vumatel puts up fiber. They've put fiber in over 400 schools around the country. So if they're passing through a specific street and there's a school, they put fiber for free. So we got into that school. The school already has internet, and we bring in digital libraries. We teach the teachers how to use them and help the kids. And really, it's about bridging that digital divide, but also making sure that no child is left behind. It's not just me. It's the partnerships that we're putting together. It's you talking about it. It's somebody else contributing 10 rands, 20, 1,000, that we're making it possible. It's just a testament of saying, alone I'll go faster, but together we'll go further. And we definitely, as a generation, can create that impact that the next generation needs.
You are most certainly one of those superheroes you spoke about. I think you are an amazing woman doing incredible causes. What is coming next for you? Are you aiming for that 7-peak challenge? Is that what's next?
Absolutely. So I am on the journey to do what is called the Explorer Grand Slam, which is the 7 highest peaks around the world, going to the North Pole and the South Pole. Just before the pandemic hit, I was in the South Pole, and I came back in January 2020. And everything else was stopped because I was meant to finish the Explorer Grand Slam at the end of 2020. And there are only 67 people in the world that have actually done this challenge, and none of them Black or white, female, Africans. So we need to represent there. But I'm just more excited to be able to do this and raise more money and make a bigger impact as well.
Well, we wish you all the best of luck, and I can't wait to follow you along there and chat to you once you've done the 7, and I have no doubt you will.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the platform, and I appreciate your interest in my story. I hope we keep stepping and we keep changing the world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. Take care.